Thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate you coming. So I have Árelía Eydís Guðmundsdóttir. And can you say it and kind of give the pronunciation or the definition behind?
I thought you did really well.
Okay.
So my name is Árelía Eydís Guðmundsdóttir. But when I go abroad, I slightly turn it around and I say Árelía Eydís Guðmundsdóttir. It's really difficult when I get into a hotel room or something and I try to make that name on the front desk, and they they just look at me like I'm a hopeless case. But we have slightly difficult names in this country.
Okay. And what's the genesis of the name? How'd you get your name?
Well, that's an interesting question. My grandmother, in Iceland we strongly believe in our sense of intuition and our sense of dreams, and it goes back generations, and I could tell you about. And my great grandmother, my grandmother's name was Árelía, which is not at all an Icelandic name, but my great grandmother dreamt two different kinds of sailors who one was the name of Ari and the other one was Marsilius, and they both drowned that particular night. So she thought to herself that they wanted the name for the child that she was bearing, and since it was a girl, she named her Árelía, which is really sort of it was a new name in a sense, but when we sort of look at it's the Latin name that means the gold of God or something like that. So we sort of turned it into the Latin origin as well. So it's but it comes from that story. So, and Eydís is just basically my middle name. My family uses that, and that came from my grandfather, who thought it was a beautiful name. And now I have a granddaughter who has the same name, so I'm really proud of that. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, you've done a lot of things. It seems like you started in your leadership role right in school, right? And you just kind of went up. So can you kind of give me the trajectory? Because you started, leadership roles, school, you have a PhD, you've lectured at the University of Iceland, right? You're associate professor, faculty. You were at University of Reykjavik. Before that, you've even lectured at Essex in Great Britain, and now you're a city councilwoman. Yeah, which is more power for doing that, because that's not an easy job.
It isn't. No,
you're on the School and Leisure Council, Human Rights and Violence Prevention Council, garbage. It's good.
Yeah.
But kind of tell me how you got there. What is it about it where you kind of went up and did all this?
Well, that's a great question again. I guess when I was younger, I went to different schools before I went to the university, and I usually would end up in some kind of leadership status at a young age. And I guess it's because I speak up and I speak loudly. So people would assume that I wanted leadership roles, and then I just took them on, and it was quite it was a natural thing for me to do, and it continued when I went into the University of Iceland. I sort of became head of my students, and then I went into the student politics and all of that. But when I had my first child, my oldest one, I was about to leave for the UK to do my master's, and then to PhD. I sort of and I stayed there for about 4 years, and after that, when I came back, I just thought to myself that I could have gone into politics at the time. That was sort of the trajectory. But I wanted to focus more on family life and work-life balance. So then I went into academia, which I didn't really have that view of myself as being an academic person.
Academician, yeah, sure.
No, it was not something, I hadn't really thought about it. But then academia is good with bringing up children, really, because we have such a flexible schedule, and we work a lot at our homes, and we can, you lecture, and then you basically can, and even then, about 30 years ago, basically you can prepare your lecturing wherever you are. So yeah, I was happy at that stage for a long time. But then, you know, there are moments in life that change the way you think and change the way your
Yeah.
career. And one of those moments was when I started writing. I have written 8 books, 3 of them novels.
Great.
But the start of that was that my sister, my sister, late sister, who came next to me, she took her own life. She was 30, and I was, of course, like everybody, not prepared for that.
Sure.
She had been a drug addict,
Okay.
but she had been clean for about 6 years, and then she sort of gave up all hope. And of course, in that was a big shock to my life. And after that, about a year after that, sort of as a process of my grief, I found out that I really needed to get it out that people, when they lose hope, there is something that you can do. So I started to work with positive psychology, and wrote my first book for the public. As you know, that in academia we really don't write for the public, and it's not the best way to get up the what do you call it, the ladder. Yeah, no. So that was a point in my life where I started writing books that wasn't meant for academia. And then I studied, and then after being on sort of the academical ladder for a long time, about 3 years ago, I I didn't know what was coming, but I felt that I needed to change something. Even though I've been sitting on different boards as well, and I started to sort of let go of all kinds of roles. And then when this opportunity for political life came up, I sort of felt like I had to get that out of my system.
Okay.
If that's, this is the
Well, it sounds like there was an intuition to your point, right? And so you were shedding the all the things that would get in the way of what you needed to do, right? That's kind of what it sounds like. That's fascinating. Okay. And so the position came up, and I assume you have to, it's popularly elected, right?
Yeah. And so, I went into this. I belong to a party called the Progressive Party, which is sort of like the middle ground, and I feel sort of felt sort of like that would be close to where I come from. So and then we won the election. I mean, we won a great victory in the election, and I got to the seat where I am at now. So this is my second. I just finished my second year of the 4-year.
So really, your turning point was really your sister, right?
My turning point towards being a writer was my sister. My turning point towards maybe changing my career at the moment was basically midlife.
Midlife, okay.
Yeah, I've written about what happens at midlife, and it's wonderful what happens. You sort of start.
So tell me.
I mean, basically, you start to question everything, and you start to go deeper, and you sort of you have this nagging feeling, who am I? It's getting a bit shorter, and you can see in front of you that your life, even though you have a great both lifespan and health span, that at some point we're all going to die, and that we all need to live until we do that. And I thought to myself, I've been writing a lot about transformations in life, and I thought to myself that maybe it would be good for me to take a transformative road, even though I don't feel at this point, I'm not certain that I will be staying in politics. At this point, I imagine myself returning to the academia as well, but having, at least I've been grown through a different step.
Yes. Okay. So really, it's, I love what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing, but then you question, well, Is there something more I wanted to do? Is there's like a niggling something in the back of your mind? Is that how it worked? Or
it's more like, I think what we need to do at
yeah,
midlife, we all
yes,
need to ask ourselves, have I really tried to develop all of my personality sides,
got
if
it.
you can,
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
or have I just sort of focused on one side of myself? So
Hmm.
we all have different kind of
Different sides, sure.
different sides, and
Hmm.
I think we really all need to try to develop all of them,
Hmm.
and that was
I
the
like
point, I
that.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And throwing yourself into politics will definitely um, be an avenue for growth, shall we say?
It has been, and it's continuing to be an avenue for growth. And
What was most
so,
surprising about it to you? Here's politics. I want to be a city council person. I am now a city council person. What's the one thing you didn't expect from it? And it could be a situational thing or it could be a personal thing.
well, what I hadn't, I didn't know about it, but I didn't expect this identity crisis.
Hmm.
When you're an
Okay.
academician, you always, when you speak publicly, you are the expert, and you sort of people tend to believe you because they
Yeah.
expect you to know
Yeah, of
something
course.
about it
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you've been researching
Uh-huh.
and all of that. But when you're a politician, for example, I made this speech this week
Hmm.
where I said something about the salary of kindergarten teachers, and that they were on pact with both lawyers and business students, and
Hmm.
right now everything is in turmoil because of what I said. So
Hmm.
you can say things, and it can have the effects that you never know. It's
Okay.
you have to be, and I think that's why politicians really try to speak without saying anything in particular.
Yeah, well, we have a
because
lot of that.
because because
Yeah.
if you go out on that line, it's going to be both come as a it's going to be difficult for some people, and it's going to be offensive to others, and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so it's sort of learning to navigate that. So even if you have an opinion, you need to take into perspective what might happen,
Hmm.
and that's something that you never have to think about as an academic, unless you are, I don't know, unless you are on an ethical line or something like that,
Hmm.
which I believe I have not been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Okay. No, that's interesting. It makes a lot of sense, to
mm,
tell the truth, because you always have people who have their own. Everybody has their own viewpoint. Everybody grew up differently. So
mm-hmm.
when you say this person will interpret it differently than that
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
and it's
exactly.
it's it's the delicate balance. It's the
Yeah,
art of
yeah,
how to say what you need to say in a way that's actually most effective at getting it across. The objective is not to offend people. The
yeah, yeah, yeah,
objective is to say, hey, this is what it is.
yeah,
This is what we need to do
yeah,
so that people will listen,
yeah,
which is a challenge because when you're an academician, you're the expert.
yeah,
Well, we need to listen to you because this is what you do.
exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a challenge.
So there is an identity crisis in
Hmm.
that, which was quite sort of. I thought so many times, what have I done?
Hmm. Okay.
What have I done now? And how did I end up here? But for me, I guess that was a learning period. You need to go through these things in life, and when
I
I'm
agree.
I'm
100%.
57. You've been through a periods of that kind uh, many times. So I
Hmm.
think that's something that you just have to live with.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So tell me about your work-life balance. You talked a little bit when your children, and you have 3 daughters, is that right?
No, I have
Two?
two daughters
Okay.
and one son,
One son.
and two grandchildren.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, in the life of a politician, it is, there's no work-life balance
Okay.
really. I mean, it's basically you try to, and that's. I mean, there is a lot of stress on in my life as an academic person or academic, but being a politician is really, I think everybody should try it. I think
Mm-hmm.
it should be.
Mm.
I think that all people should at least try for 4 years to
Mm.
be in politics, because then you realize how much sacrifice people have to offer to do this. And I'm quite happy now. My youngest is 16, so I mean, my sort of family life is getting a bit sort of.
They can be at home alone, and it's okay. They have their own circle of friends in their life.
Yeah, but for people with small children, I mean, it's really hectic.
Yeah.
So the balance is trying to find your own space within all of this, and that's, for me, it's writing. You know, I try to when I have at least some time, I try to write, just to keep my head on my shoulder.
Yeah. Well, I find when I write, it's the only time in my life where I have total control.
Yes.
Because I'm sitting here, here's the page, and it's just me and the page.
Yeah.
There's nobody else coming in. I can do my own research if it's a nonfiction. If it's fiction, it's really, you just gotta do it at the same thing. Yeah. So there is a comfort to just sitting down there and knowing it's just you and the page versus having to wait on somebody, or being afraid of somebody's opinion.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. And so here's the question of the day: Are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Or
yes, I am. Basically, I mean, I'm really happy now with my decision, and I'm happy to be able to serve at some point, and to impact my society. And I think that it's important for everybody to at least try. And now I found, after about I think 1.5 years without teaching, because I've taught all my life.
Sure.
I just did my own seminars. My next nonfiction book is about, maybe what we call like midlife or later midlife, and what we need to do in order to sort of get the best out of a long life. And I think at this point in my life, you need to strip out all of your ideas about success, and just and just how can I live my life to the fullest, and have the best effect on others. But sometimes you don't control the outcome.
No, you never control the outcome.
No.
You can only control what you do.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like is you went into, it's in your, basically the writing and the teaching and the service is in your DNA, I like to call it, right? So it's kind of part of you. And so since you've been acting within your area where you feel your strengths, that kind of brings about the happiness. And you have 3 great kids. I mean,
and two great grandchildren.
Yes, yes.
Today is the day where we call the first summer day of Iceland, and that's a day off for all Icelanders. And we start the day by saying happy summer. And I think we are the only country to do this. And if you live in Iceland with the darkness over the winter time, it's really important for us. I mean, we are beginning something new when the summer comes. And this morning I had my granddaughters, because they live next door for the time being.
Very nice.
My daughter is she's here she lives in the States, but at least she's working there, but she's now at home, and her family, and they live next door. And the morning started in this beautiful weather with somebody knocking on my door and saying, "Grandma, have you woken up?"
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So keeping your people close to you and trying to do your best, basically, is, I think, what is important to be happy.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Is there anything else? So this is a platform or forum, right, where we kind of talk about your trajectory, your turning point, work-life balance, happiness, because people need to hear more of it from real people, right? Not just the facade that most people put up. So one thing you'd like to communicate to people that they might not think about? And you've said a lot here about the midlife crisis, and you need to throw out your definition of success and really go back to the basics. But is there something that, if there's one thing you would like to communicate with people, what would it be?
Well, I think my latest turning point, the thing that made me go into politics, was all this research on mental health issues for young people. And I thought to myself, this is something that we need to speak about this. We need to open up discussion. And I think that, you need to just in some way try to serve. That's the only way towards happiness, in my view. Try to serve the greater good in any means. You can be a volunteer, you can go into politics,
I agree.
you can do podcasts, or you can write
Yeah.
books, and
Yeah.
or you can just smile at the people wherever you go. So if we can just, what we need to bring back maybe is closer communities. And it's for cities like the one I'm working for, we need to incorporate that into every aspect of our
I
schooling
agree,
system,
100%.
in our organizational system, everything. So I think most of us feel passionate about something, and 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 then again, just in order to listen to those aha moments, you need to slow down. I mean,
I agree,
you just
100%.
need. I mean, the
Yeah.
only way to listen to the voice within is basically to slow down. I went to Granada for in Spain for 2 months, and I was alone when I was on a sabbatical, my last sabbatical, and I could feel, I felt for the first time in my life lonely, and I felt all kinds of difficult feelings, and I was really surprised. But after a while, this was the seed for my change.
Got it.
Because you need to. I love the saying that comes from, now I can't remember her second name. There's this lady who's more than 100 years old who survived the Edith Edgar or something like that, survived the Nazi camps.
Yes.
And she
concentration camps.
Yeah, concentration camps, and she wrote this wonderful books, and I love her books. But I love the saying that comes from this is, what you can't feel, you can't heal.
Yes,
and
I agree. I agree.
And it's
Hold on, I got to write that down.
Yeah, it's such a good mantra, I think, because I mean, it's difficult and it's painful to go through growth, but we just need to go with it, and by the end of the growth, there is something. It's like a butterfly, really. Yeah. You have to squeeze out of one thing to be another thing.
I agree. Yeah, if you think about the caterpillar, it's thinking it's at the end of the life, and suddenly it's this brilliant thing that afterwards. And going to Granada, you got time where you felt the pain because you're withdrawing from your day to day, and going, and you had to live with yourself.
Yeah. And for a while, it was really uncomfortable.
Sure, yeah.
I tried to learn Spanish, and I tried to learn the flamenco dance, but my mind wasn't really in it, because I was really surprised by what I needed to face.
Yeah. And it just kind of popped up. Well, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. This has actually been really wonderful. I appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to be with you.
And thank you for being on the inaugural part of this podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, thank you.
Hope hope everything will be wonderful for you, both here and on your journey.
We're all on the same journey, right?
Yeah.
Different paths, same journey.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I'm trying to do is kind of what you're doing. It's my flavor, I guess, so to speak.
I can hear that. Yeah.
So it's good. It's all good. So I really appreciate you coming out today. Thank you.
Yeah.